Good afternoon. Amy Mitchell, Vice Chair of Pikes Peak Area Council on Governments Commission on Aging. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 3:03. That's a little fuzzy. First, Melissa did determine that we do have a quorum. So thank you everyone for attending the week before Christmas. The agenda. Is everyone good with the agenda as written?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Thank you, Paula. We have
I'll
a second? All right.
I will second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second on the table. If anyone is opposed to approving the agenda as written, please raise your hand. All right, looks like we have a consent that the agenda is approved. Next item is a consent items. These are acted upon as a whole, but the only item we have on our consent agenda is approval of the minutes from the November 15, 2023 meeting. Did anyone see anything that needed to be changed on the minutes? If so, please raise your hand on Zoom, online or in the room. Seeing none. Do we have a motion to approve the consent items, the minutes as listed for November 15?
I'll motion to approve. This is Erin.
Thank you, Erin.
I'll second. Paula.
Thank you, Paula. All right, if anyone is opposed to passing the November 15 minutes as written, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I will deem the November 15 minutes are approved as written. We are now up to our public comment section of the agenda. I do not see any members of the public in the room.
And Madam Vice Chair, I do not see any members of the public on the Teams format either. Everyone else is either staff or members. And I'll also say we did not receive any advance requests for public comment, and we did not receive any submitted public comment that we would have submitted to the commissioners.
Thank you, Jared.
Yep.
All right, so I will say that we have no members of the public wanting to speak. So we will go to item number 5 on the agenda. We have action items, and this is vote for our 2024 officer slate. Melissa, do you want to tee us up on that?
So I can. So we have some great news in terms of our officers for the Commission on Aging. Dayton led us on a great year to kind of move through establishing goals, both internal goals for the commission operating, as well as kind of ongoing goals and objectives for things to strive to attain. So he really set a great stage this last year. And we are happy to announce that Paula is interested in taking on that chair position. And the reason that she's interested in that is because Erin Marzella offered to take on the membership role with membership. So because of those kind of two shifts, we are able to secure kind of our officers, and that leaves Vice Chair Mitchell for another year in her role. Happy to do that. And so at this point in time, I'm going to put out the slate of officers as Miss Paula Levy as chair, and Miss Amy Mitchell as vice chair, and Erin Marizella as membership. And unless there are other nominations from the floor, I will make a motion for those 3 individuals to be presented as our officers for 2024. And so then I would need a second.
Amy Mitchell, I'll second.
Thanks. And any other comments or discussion? All right. None heard. I will go ahead and all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thanks for the hand raising and the ayes. And so again, congratulations to this commission for the last 2 years of really hard work. Dayton carrying it through this last year, and for Paula, who is busy starting her own business down here, nonprofit, as well as taking on the commission for the next year. This is great. Amy Mitchell continuing as vice chair, and Aaron has already been busy with membership work. So thank you. And with that, I do see that we have a guest that's joined us online. And so I might go ahead and turn it over to Vice Chair Mitchell to ask Shannon to introduce herself, if she's okay with that.
All right, Shannon, we see that you've joined. If you would like to unmute yourself and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Absolutely. My name is Shannon Whalen. I'm the manager in the emergency room and the acute care at Pikes Peak Regional Hospital. And Brian West reached out to me to see if I could be part of this committee. I'm not sure what it really entails too much, but I do live in Woodland Park, so I'm happy to help with whatever I can and see what you guys need from me.
Excellent, Shannon. It is great to have representation up the hill, and I could only imagine the diversity you see in the job that you perform. Have you received an application? Do you want to learn a little bit more about us? What are you thinking?
I'm not sure. This is my first meeting. I was able to speak with Aaron a little bit about it, and I wanted to attend my first meeting just to kind of see if it's something I can have come to the monthly meetings, just make sure that I'm able to be involved into it. So right now, if I can just kind of listen to the meetings, see what it kind of entails, and then go from there, if that's okay.
That's great. I'm sure that Aaron already let you know that our meetings are monthly on this Wednesday, the third Wednesday of the month. And we're happy to have you listen in, and welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Great. So do we want to hear from Aaron, membership committee? Are you ready to give a report, or Paula, do you want to fill in on this meeting? I'll let you guys decide.
I think Erin has hit the ground running, so I'm going to let her take it from here.
Excellent. It sounds like it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So, Shannon, I'm so glad that you could join us today. Both Shannon and another woman who works at Pikes Peak Regional Hospital have stepped up at the request of some of the leadership there from UC Health. I reached out to a colleague of mine who works at the hospital, hoping that we could get not only representation from citizens in Woodland Park, but also people who are engaged with the healthcare community in Woodland Park. So Shannon is joining us today to kind of get an idea of how we work. And I've reached out to the city council and the mayor in Woodland Park. And Melissa and I are engaged with conversations with them about what the procedure is for appointment to the commission. And I also have reached out to the mayor in Green Mountain Falls, and Melissa and I are in conversations with Green Mountain Falls as well about having an appointee from that municipality, from the town or city. Is it the city of Green Mountain Falls? I think it's the town of Green Mountain Falls. So hopefully in January, potentially we could have an interested appointee from Green Mountain Falls join us as well and learn more about what we're doing and connect with our work here in the commission.
Aaron, thank you. It sounds like you've hit the ground running. Thank you for all the work you've done before you were even elected.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Of course. I'm excited for the membership chair role because it really overlaps a lot with the work that I do at Innovations in Aging. And so it just goes hand in hand. So looking forward to meeting more governments this year and talking about the work that we're doing here.
Yeah, you know a lot of people, so thank you. Awesome. Our goal is to fill our ranks. All right, thank you for membership committee. Policy committee. First, a report on the Colorado Center for Aging. I sat in on the meeting last Monday, and I'll give a quick rundown. We just discussed potential legislation for next year. First and foremost, AAA funding, and the pressure we are applying to the JBC and to the legislature on needing consistent and increased funding for our AAAs. We also discussed housing, and within that discussion, transportation, um, transit-oriented communities, additional dwelling units were called ADUs, homestead exemption, and we did get word that possibly Coker and Young, those two legislators are thinking about again running a bill in 2024 to finally get homestead exemption passed and into effect for it to be transportable. We also discussed the electronic, the EBT funding, electronic, SNAP funding, and the federal government reduced monies available to EBTs, and it is definitely showing the effect. I'm going to just take a minute to give you a contrast. Park County, we got a rundown yesterday from our Health and Human Services Director. First quarter, we were spending about 1.2 million. Second quarter, we were at 900,000. Third quarter, after the reductions took place, we were at 660,000. And our director believes that our seniors are going to be the one getting the brunt of those reductions. And so I feel that, with the focus we have that we'll talk about with our goals and objectives and tactics, we don't really have food security in there, though it is a need across our Tri-County region. And I just put an appeals out for make sure we don't forget about our food banks. And to follow up on that, the JBC is thinking about possibly combining the food pantry assistance program along with the food bank assistance program and combining those into one grant program now, because separately they didn't have a broad of a as appeal as I think they could when joining these programs together and having the money available mainly for food pantry assistance, because I think they're realizing the impact. So I just wanted to throw that out there to let people know that this is real and could be raising to the surface in early 2024 as being a big problem. CCOA, yeah, Kathy is not on. No, she is not on, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you are, Kathy. You want to give us a rundown?
Well, from last month's meeting, I mean, we're talking about a lot of the same things you just mentioned. They're doing accessory dwellings, which is a detached or attached unit, like a garage could become a place to live for someone. And so they're trying to get that passed. There was I don't remember who it was, but there was a mom who had her son living in the garage and they had made it into a little apartment and she got a ticket for it. So she's kind of driving this. They're talking about an increased wage for direct care workers. They already got the special week of recognition passed, and the transit communities, like you said, and age-friendly universal design for new housing units. It's currently 5% requirement and want to increase to 10%. And let's see what else. That's from the affordable Housing Committee. And, you know, the rest, the AAA stuff, they're still trying to get that worked on. The letters to the JBC. Hopefully those will make a good impact. But haven't got an official response from that yet. So, at least not that I'm aware of. Let's see. That's pretty much, let's see. They were talking about the Older Americans Act, which, and money to the AAA again. And, you know, they're trying to identify the needs that the AAAs have to kind of strengthen the position on that. So it's just kind of all in the planning right now.
And Kathy, this is Melissa. I'd like to point out that you had forwarded that piece from the governor on housing that was included in the packet, I believe, as well as in a separate email that I sent out to everybody. And for me, it's just interesting to think about the different goals, objectives, and tactics that the commission has been discussing and adopting over the past couple of months, and to now kind of see some other guidance coming out from both CCA and CCOA and the governor's office to kind of help keep aligning pieces up that the commission is working on. So thank you for forwarding that presentation from the CCOA. And hopefully folks will take a chance and look through it when they can.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting and should be shared. So.
Yes, thank you for sending that. I did find it very interesting. And in thinking through communication with the JBC, I'm wondering if it would be a good idea to maybe present a white paper to them on the PPACG and what benefits AAA funding does for each of the 3 counties and areas within the purview of Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, because Park County utilizes our AAA funding a little bit different. And all counties do whatever the needs are. They use it to fill the needs the best they can. And I think that might be helpful. We use them at CCI quite a lot, and they have been well received if we keep it short and succinct. And I'd be happy to work with Penny to write the Park County section in just the main 3 areas where we benefit and use it to serve seniors. And maybe we could present that at some point.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea because it kind of gives them the broad spectrum of things that the AAAs do. I mean, not everyone does the same as the Pikes Peak one, but there's a lot of crossover between counties and stuff. So,
right. And Kathy, I know you asked if you could find a little bit more about what El Paso County does. And maybe this is a way that it would help you be able to paint that picture from the chair you sit in at the CCOA.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know about the basic programs, and I know that like you're into some of the transportation, you're into all the different priority categories, but I don't know to what extent.
Yeah. So
when I say I mean the Pikes Peak AAA.
Right, exactly. So Melissa didn't cringe too bad when I brought that up, but we can all join forces and make it an easy task, I think. So
that would be awesome. Yeah, because I'm giving them I have to give them a couple sentence summation in my meeting tomorrow. So I can tell them what I know now.
All right, and I could probably send you when I get home tonight, or maybe before I even leave here today, just a personal email about what we do in Park County.
That'd be nice.
As one county within the AAA PPACG funding, if that'd be helpful to you.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, give you some tools. All right. Thank you very much for sitting in that position. It's valuable to us. Um, next item on the agenda, oh, sorry, Paula.
Yeah, I had my hand up. Just for those that are new and guests to the meeting, could you all speak your acronyms so that they know what you're talking about and what group you're talking about? For our
Yes,
guests.
Thank you, Paula.
Absolutely.
shame on me. The CCOA is the Colorado Commission on Aging. And it is a legislative focused group to help figure out how to get legislation through that will serve seniors the best. And PPACG is Pikes Peak Area Council on Governments. And CCA is Colorado Center for Aging. That one always gets me. And they are a lobby focused organization also, and work on legislation to benefit seniors.
And the JVC?
Joint Budget Committee in the legislature. Sorry, and I should know better than to not use the full term.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure our guests were going, yeah, they talk gibberish and I'm out.
Yeah, thank you. We
You're
do not want
welcome.
to speak gibberish. We want to
No.
speak English.
Thank you.
It's okay. I was actually going to look at this later and then go look them all up. So no big deal.
Yeah, we don't need you to do that. We can speak English here and be clear.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paula. Yeah, call me on it whenever you need to.
Gotcha.
All right, so next item is the Pikes Peak Area Council on Governments Legislative Committee. And I would say, Jared, you are up.
Thank you for your patience as I just get reoriented. And Jody, feel free to jump in as well. Most everyone kind of covered everything I was going to. The nice thing is that we're all working towards the same goal, which is really nice on this. Some general state stuff. State General Assembly starts on January 10th, which is a week before the next Commission on Aging meeting. That's also coincides with our next Board of Directors meeting for the Pikes Peak Area Council of Government. So we got a little reprieve, and then I think it's going to be absolutely, what's the word I want to use? A sprint, a marathon sprint, something like that from January 10th to early May. It's something that is unique in that we're going through, again, thinking big picture. It's interesting to note we have roughly a third of the members of the General Assembly between the Senate and the House have been appointed through a vacancy committee and not through, they were not directly elected by their districts. There was just another announcement yesterday of, I believe, a state representative who's announced that they will step back at the end of the year. And that was after one last week. So it's tough to keep a hold of people who are willing to serve in these roles. But it's something that we just adapt and we go forward on how to best work through our agenda. The nice thing is that for our Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments region, we haven't had any changes. So that our region has been stable, which is nice. It gives us a good chance to really build those relationships with our legislators. As a few things that have already been mentioned, the Joint Budget Committee and all the work going on that. I'll give a little bit of expansion, and Jody, I might need your help just explaining because you know this world much better than I do. So the committee met last Friday to consider the budget for the Department of Human Services. We were looped in at the PPACG level through multiple channels, but we are working with our partners at the Denver Regional Council of Governments. They have an in-house legislative person who is full-time, so that's nice, and that Rich is really able to dedicate resources that we have to contract out on our end. But we were able to put it forward to our board to ask permission to, just because it is a legislative position, listen, is it okay with the board to take this position and really advocate for increased funding through the state funding for human services or senior services, excuse me? And it was unanimous approval, yes. For legislative positions at the board level, for us, it requires a 2/3 vote, which is a fairly high threshold because depending on how many show up, what quorum is, and once you get 2/3, it may not take a lot to derail a legislative position like that. So it was incredible that we had a full unanimous decision on that. Jody was able to corral a lot of providers who were able to outline exactly how this impacts them. Commissioner Mitchell was able to jump in as well and gave fantastic testimony on behalf of the Commission on Aging. But that was something that was really exciting to see it come together that quickly. Ultimately, the Joint Budget Committee, we were really hoping to get some carved out time to speak to them directly as AAAs, Area Agencies on Aging. That did not work out. They did not take any outside testimony, which is not unheard of at this kind of committee level. The next opportunity that we're hearing is that in February we could be able to go before members of the Joint Budget Committee to advocate why we think that level should not go back down to pre-pandemic levels. Which for our region, since the pandemic started, the population of those 60 and over has increased 11%. But the funding will not have increased 11% by any means. So it's one of those things to keep in mind. There's roughly $23 million in discretionary funding available at the state level. And so the state funds for human services is competing with everybody else who wants a piece of that 23 million. So we have to be very good at advocating why we think it's important. And so anything that can be done to really highlight what those services mean. If you haven't looked at last week's board meeting, I encourage people to do so. Some very strong ways on how this is being used to help seniors in our area. Jody, before I move on to other topics, did I capture it all?
You did a great job, Jared. One thing that I would add, since this had to go through the legislative committee as well as the board of directors, is that those of you working on papers or letters or any kind of communication, you do need to forward that to Melissa and I. We do have an appropriate structure that has to go through. We get that cleared then through our appropriate structure, and then we get that letter out. So whether that's a letter from a member who wants to represent this statement, or a letter from the Commission on Aging, or a letter that is referencing, like to Amy's point, a white letter of sorts, anything like that. If you're representing either Commission on Aging, membership within PPACG, or the PPACG itself, it does need to go through the appropriate channel. So please keep that in mind. It takes a lot of steps, as Jared mentioned, to get this before the board of directors to get the okay to advocate. And we don't, we want to make the most of this crazy exciting unanimous vote on our behalf. That was just, we don't get to see that very often. So it was real exciting to get that unanimous vote to support this advocacy to the JBC. So we want to be very careful and not burn any bridges. So if you're not sure, ask. If you're sure, ask. But we're best case scenarios, get that to me, and Jared and I will get it approved and on its way. So I'll be actually out next week, and so you can get that to Melissa. Melissa will get it to Jared, and Jared can get it through the channels. But I'll be back on January 2nd. The only other thing I wanted to add is, do know that there are all kinds of things going on around this, making the story, making the point around the additional funding that the AAAs need to be able to make sure that we're keeping up with the growth in our region. This isn't just because we had extra people who access services during the time of COVID. That does play into the process, but at the end of the day, it's just pure numbers. We have a larger population now than we did 5 years ago, and so the funding that we're receiving right now is just not keeping up in any way, shape, or form. The other thing with the CDHS presenting their case to the JBC, and that's the Colorado Department of Human Services, and to the JBC last Friday. Was that they're really focused on wait lists, and wait lists are very, very important, but they can change at any given time. And so it's a piece of data that's a little bit vague to really try to hang their hat on. I was really encouraged, though, several members of the JBC insisted, we're just downright insistent on getting a number from the folks at CDHS who were making the presentation. And so they've been given homework. They have to work up some numbers and bring those back, because the members of the JBC realize the need is so great to serve our aging population that they told folks, if you don't give us a number, we will come up with a number, because we know the need is crucial. We know the need is imminent, and we want to see these changes. And so I was just so thrilled to see that and hear that during the testimony on Friday morning. Really was not expecting that at all. The other part of that, like I mentioned, there's a lot of things in the works. So as many of you know, as our AAA director, that's Area Agency on Aging Director, Shannon, my name is Jody Barker, and I'm the director here at the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging. We have an association of AAA directors here in the state of Colorado. All 16 AAAs serve in that organization. And so we are also working on some opportunities to get before members of the JBC and other legislators who are aging allies. And so we're really excited to be able to do more about that. So more to come as a lot of this behind the scenes activities happen. We'll continue to share from there. Paula, I see your hand.
Yes, do you happen to have like a template of a letter that you have that to share so we can get?
I do not. I would, I don't have a specific letter template, anything like that. However, Melissa has helped with a variety. She may have something. Melissa, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Yes.
she's done some good work like that. So
that would be great.
Yeah,
that would be
absolutely.
just a good jump start. I'm happy to do that. Yep.
I'll forward some things out.
Thank you.
And Jody, was I imagining was Rich and his team, they were, from that discussion, were they looking at doing something as well? Or I might have been thinking of something else.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics yet, but they are part of the C4A discussion. There's discussion from some aging proponent legislators who want to bring on a caucus once a month during the legislative session, and so that meeting is coming. That's actually being put on by CCA. And so I think they've got a planning meeting coming up in January. We'll be part of that. So yeah, the C4A will be part of that. Just a lot going on, because some of the big concerns, as you know, is we were able to put our approval, our stamp of approval, as it were, on a letter that went to the governor's office requesting some updates to the state fund for senior services, and that did not show up at all. There was a little bit of mention of aging and the increased population, but none of our recommendations or suggestions were included in the governor's budget. Here's something to consider as well, is the governor's budget is a recommendation. It's ultimately the JBC who makes the final decisions when it goes before the legislature. So we still have time, but we don't want to waste that time, right? So we're continuing to work. And now that we've heard these awesome comments by members of the JBC who realize the seriousness of the ultimately it's reduced funding. You know, we've got a growing line of our aging population, and our funding is just not keeping up. And so they're realizing that, and they're wanting to make some action on it this legislative session. So we're really excited for that. So more to come. More to come. We're working on that.
Thank you, Jody. And I'll just add in beyond the JBC discussion, Joint Budget Committee discussion, the board also approved updated legislative priorities at its meeting last week as part of the consent agenda. That just meant it went through without it was a non-controversial item. What that meant for this group specifically, we added back in the senior homestead extension portability. We had taken that out ahead of Proposition HH because we did not want that to be perceived as an endorsement of HH, which the board ultimately took an opposed position on. With Prop HH failing, we put the senior tax exemption back into our legislative priorities. So that's really the only thing. Like I said, it was that's why it's non-controversial. It was in there, it was out, now it's back in. At the federal level, House is out of session. We're not expecting anything major to happen at the federal level until the next commission meeting, at least. And I think that's all I've got.
Thank you, Jared. Yeah, we hope things just stay calm in DC and we can focus on prepping for what we have to have ahead of us in 2024 in Colorado. Yeah, and Jody, thank you very much for that rundown. We want to absolutely follow the structure and rules of PPACG. In just my lobby experience working with CCI, I'm hopeful that we could provide something that can pass through the system that would be a tool for you guys that would show some just a couple stories and instances that will maybe touch the heart of some of these legislators and people that you're talking to, mainly the JBC, the Joint Budget Committee. And we found them to be really useful tools. And one I used last year or this year for legislation I worked on, it actually helped us get it passed. So we'll definitely follow the rules, and we can make it the goal is a one-pager. Short and sweet, and tug on some heartstrings and tell a couple stories and be a tool. So thank you so much. And
that's great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. I appreciate that. And yeah, it was very clear that several members of the JBC did comment on letters they had received or outreach that they'd received from the public around these funding concerns. And so it was very clear that they are listening. So that's really great. So wherever we can continue to make that case is much appreciated. So thanks a bunch. Since we'll go on, we really covered a lot in 6C under the board items, so I don't have a whole lot more to share. January will be the PPACG board annual meeting. That's voting in the executive committee as well as a variety of other work that's done typically in January, and so the Commission on Aging report out is now tentatively scheduled for the February board meeting. And so as we begin scheduling that time, we'll have more details to share on that. I did just really briefly, I did want to share, even though at the federal level, it's kind of calm right now. I will share that there is work and advocacy going on at the federal level because we are in a reauthorization period for the Older Americans Act. For those of you who may not be aware, the Older Americans Act was written in 1963 and gets reauthorized about every 5 years. We're in that period right now where it should be reauthorized and ready to go by the beginning of the federal year 2024-25, which will be this coming October 1. The challenges during some recent work done on language and updating the Older Americans Act, some rulemaking came about that has some concerns around operational contracting and things like that. So I won't bore you with those details, but at the end of the day, there is advocacy going on at the federal level to represent the interest of AAAs, because ultimately all the rulemaking falls down through the Administration on Community Living, through the states, and ultimately down to the AAAs for execution. And so there's some stuff that was really good that desperately needed updates, because the last time the Older Americans Act was updated was 1988. So think about where you were in 1988. I had a lot more hair. I don't know about you, but my glasses were more like Paula's, actually. It's just been a long time since the Older Americans Act has been updated. So there's work going on with that to bring the reauthorization in line so that we can have a fresh start. Ultimately, reauthorization means that the feds are saying, yes, we will pay for this act, provide the funding for this act for another 5 years. And so we want to make sure that that process of the rulemaking goes as smooth as possible so that we can come to a consensus and make sure that that funding continues for the next 5-year period. With that, Commissioner Mitchell, I will wrap up and let you continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jody. Appreciate that rundown too. And thinking about the federal level, we understand the need for guardrails and new rulemaking, especially revised since 1988. I mean, I'd only been out of college for a couple of years, but we hope they keep it simple. Some processes to deal with the federal monies is so cumbersome that we hope they really can put some thoughtful rules together that will not make your life more painful here. I'll leave it at that. All right. Chair report. Dayton is not here, so we can skip that item. I already took my moment of privilege to talk about the electronic EBT, electronic benefit transfer. It's their little card that they can use for transfer. I already took that moment, so I'll skip that. Strategic planning. We had a great meeting, and Jared, thank you for the breakout meetings. It was awesome. What a great way to put some focus on the topics that we're working on to try to do some meaningful forward progress. We had 4 breakout sessions. The first one was enhancing accessible and affordable healthcare, and Steve and I took that one. And we're going to provide a rundown of each of these 4 areas and what we discussed. But our internal for commission operations are first the foundation, and our Pikes Peak Commission on Aging Principles of Engagement, Membership Matrix, and Prioritization tool questionnaire and data repository. And we're using the CASOA, which is the Community Assessment Survey for older adults. And the excellent data that is provided in that questionnaire that's put out, we are aligning with that to make sure that what we're working on lines up with where the needs are, and what we need to focus on within the 3 counties in the area, in the region. So I tip my hat to Dayton for really putting together a structure that's meaningful for us. The next is the membership committee. Let's see.
I can jump in and help you a
Okay,
little
sure,
bit.
please.
Since I live and breathe this a lot more than all of you
Please.
commissioners do. And so what the commission had talked about a couple of months ago was to hopefully have a goal to fill 3 vacancies by the end of the year. And so we are looking to be kind of on track with that. We did bring Connie on board and Amy, the other Amy, I'm forgetting her last, Amy
Smith.
Parker, Amy Smith, on board. But then we have basically, gosh, I think 5 people in the pipeline to potentially be members shortly after the beginning of the year. So the membership committee, there was that goal to kind of try to really work on getting some more members. So kudos to Paula and then Aaron really working on bringing some folks along. So, and then the policy committee, we do have a policy committee, but that committee is not really formally active at this point in time. That'll be something that the commission will want to review and think a little bit more about starting in January. At one point in time, we had a policy committee chairperson, and the intent of that person was to attend the PPACG legislative committees that happened and be able to bring that information back and forth to the commission. And so that'll be something that has to be looked at in January. And then Dayton wanted to have a chair report that, was, kind of had a specific format that, Paula, as the new chair coming in, might want to follow, that the chair would be kind of tracking some numeric actual goals over the course of the year through the chair report. So that's kind of an overview of these pieces on this document here to help guide the commission. And then where it says external, those are where the commission had kind of broken up into those 4 different groups that meet and are looking at specific goals and objectives in these core areas that really got called out by the commissioners over the last couple of months around the healthcare or housing, transportation, caregiver, and social engagement. So those are kind of the external outward facing goals that the commission will kind of be working on and doing over the next year. So that's kind of how this document comes together. Vice Chair Mitchell, just to help kind of
Thank you.
keep you going along, since
Thank
you
you
don't get to look at this on a daily basis like I do. So
No, thank you for the
there you go.
lifeline.
Yep.
Oh, if you only knew the broad spectrum of things I've worked on this week.
I can imagine.
But yeah, I think our 4 goals and our 4 breakouts, we can really do some meaningful work to lead forward on finding ways to help within the community. And goal 1, since Steve is not here, and I know that he wrote up our report, our goal is to foster cost-effective partnerships with healthcare providers and work to facilitate the last mile of connection for seniors. Our brainstorming was in rural areas, which is a lot of my focus, getting to a physician, there's a transportation challenge to get to a doctor. And telehealth has really started to have a meaningful purpose within having that doctor patient connection, because a lot of times just having that as we talked about, an increased touch and communication with a patient doctor, they can head off a problem before it gets bad, and they really have to get in a vehicle to go see the physician. So we talked about and brainstormed how we could expand telehealth and make it more available without having to drive to a far off area to see a doctor. And we know that broadband is a problem in a lot of areas, and it we need it. But in Park County, our ambulance districts have a meeting room. It's like where they can go in and do telehealth. A senior can go in there and have a telehealth meeting with their doctor from the ambulance district or from our fire station. Because they've got the bandwidth, they've got the high-speed internet, and so that shortens up their trip. Our couple new ambulance buildings are the main ones, so they can just drive a couple miles maybe 10 miles at the most, instead of in Park County, a lot of times it's 40 miles. So we just talked about the need to increase those touches. So we're looking at um, the age-friendly health system, what physicians actually do telehealth. It's a large structure to look at how that works, but if we can align the data sets with the assessment, the CASOA that we're working on, that we can do some measurable increase in ability for people to reach their physician without having to travel a long distance. I think it works well across all 3 counties. And so you can read the rest of the document that we put together, but I think it could bear fruit. And we will have more discussions. We're kind of peeling back a couple layers, and I'm talking to our director of a one ambulance district that has these new rooms. They just build 2 new buildings, and find out how they're implementing, how they're making it available. I just haven't had time to talk to them, but if we want to have conversation on that, I'm happy to have anybody's input. Okay. Well, we'll keep on working on that one. The second goal, and we had Dayton and Aaron worked on goal number 2, which is creating age-friendly housing and transportation. So, Aaron, do you want to give us a rundown on how your brainstorming session went?
Yes, I don't have this pulled up on my computer though. So as I talk through, Jared, if you could kind of scroll up for me. So the age-friendly housing and transportation goal, we're definitely employing the age-friendly network that we have built at Innovations in Aging Collaborative, and working on, overlaying housing and transportation needs on top of the age-friendly community support system that we have built. So establishing relationships with leaders across the Tri-County area to share our strategic plan. This is what we've done in Colorado Springs and El Paso County. So just expanding that out, identifying the government leaders across the 3 different counties who would come to the table in support of housing and transportation needs and policies to serve older adults, and then educating an education campaign on the value of age-friendly policies related to transportation and housing. The work that we've done at Innovations in Aging and the work that we do currently with housing and transportation, we find that not everyone is on the same page in terms of the value of age-friendly policies. And so really taking a step back, making sure that everyone agrees on even what we're talking about, like what are age-friendly policies, what are age-friendly housing policies and transportation needs, and then facilitating the adoption of policies among transportation and housing entities in the Tri-County area, helping leaders and legislators and policymakers understand common barriers and common areas for success when they're building these policies. And, because we're not always reinventing the wheel every time we're in a new community. We want to understand the communities that we're going into and help the best practices where we can sort of transfer these ideas across different communities. Is that all? I think that's all, Jared. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about age-friendly housing and transportation?
No, thank you, Erin. But one comment, when I encounter people who really don't understand the nexus on the challenges seniors face, I ask them to think about their parents or their grandparents and some of the challenges they face, and to think about the fact that someday they will be an older American. And so that usually helps them have some thought behind what we're trying to do. So we'll see. Sometimes communications are a challenge, but I appreciate your plan, and I think it's meaningful. Um, as an elected official, I appreciate you pinging the people who are the decision makers.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that the housing, the more that the work that I do from the local to the state level, housing is such a hot topic right now in Colorado and across the country. And I think that this conversation will be a good way for us to engage local communities in the issues that are really top of mind for them, because housing is top of mind everywhere. So,
Yeah, it's definitely the hot topic. Yeah, it's a good place to start. Excellent. Thank you very much for that rundown. The next goal was goal 3, strengthening caregiver support and services. And Connie, Paula, and Amy took this one on. So um, whoever would like to start, and we're happy to hear from you about what your brainstorm session was.
Okay, I think I'll go ahead and start. Paula, feel free to chime in here if I miss something. So one of our biggest things that we discussed was the need for awareness and education, because so many people are unaware of what caregiving is and that they are in fact caregivers. So with that, we have put together a brainstorm for a caregiver conference for the Tri-County area to focus on those pieces. And bringing together the resources and highlighting the community resources and things that already exist, and helping to provide speakers and things for people to engage and learn more about. But the priority really being to highlight community resources that are available out there. We are going to need to address our timeline, as I think we were rather ambitious in our first brainstorm here, with the idea of presenting in October of 2024, which is October is the National Caregiver Appreciation Month. So coinciding with that. But that's a very short timeline for an event of this caliber. So that's something we will need to re-examine there. Yeah. Anything else, Paula, that you can think of?
No, I think you captured it. I think, there's a number of senior type expos, but nothing that really targets the caregivers. And I just was on a podcast yesterday for caregivers, but it also encompasses, it also encompassed those that are caregiving for special needs, developmentally disabled, um, not just the caregivers, the older caregiver, because there's all kinds of caregivers. I do 4 groups a month, and there is a lady in one of my groups who has been a caregiver for her granddaughter since birth, and her granddaughter's now 29 and is, still lives in her home, and she still, goes to several different groups throughout the week, but she's been a caregiver since her granddaughter was born. So, just even, and I get calls all the time from those type of caregivers that are looking for resources too. So I think we need to, our focus is obviously the older population, but really, to have pieces available for those that need uh, resources for other populations too. And just, like if a Down syndrome person lives into their 30s and 40s, they have a very high probability of developing Alzheimer's. So just to have those kind of things on the back burner, so that we're not excluding anybody um, from our scope.
This is Melissa. And I had the benefit of sitting in with the three of you guys last month, listening to this idea. And I'm super excited to kind of watch this evolve over the next year or year and a half, whenever the final date does get landed on. And I am wondering if either of you guys have seen anything like this at around our state. I wonder, I know Easter Seals is there. I don't know if they do some type of caregiver conference. I know I did kind of sit in on the virtual Alzheimer's Association conference that happened. I can't quite remember when, but that was like a virtual experience. And then it just makes me kind of wonder, Jody's got his hand up, if there is something like this in another part of our state, or if this really will be kind of a first for the 3-county region. Jody.
Yeah, actually, that is a great question, Melissa, because just a few years ago, really, probably in the year or two leading up to COVID, it had nothing to do with COVID. That's just timeline. Easter Seals was putting together a huge promotional series on helping people recognize themselves as caregivers. Do you do this, this, and this? Then you are a caregiver. There is help, there is guidance, there is education, and that kind of thing. And I think Kent Matthews, our Family Caregiver Support Center coordinator, could get this part of the team connected with the folks who built that out at the state level, because he was part of that as well. But they had just huge levels of education, just helping people realize that they are caregivers. Many of you know this. I know, Paula, you've heard this 100 times. Oh, I'm not a caregiver, I just take care of my mom. Yeah, that's a caregiver, and you just want to really, come on. That is the definition. And so yeah, I think kind of maybe connecting with them, finding out more of what they did, where they spread the word, what that looked like, and maybe spending some time talking with them about how that went could be very helpful in this, because it's definitely not going away.
No.
And maybe it needs a quick refresh, and start it up fresh again. So.
Jody, that would be awesome if you could connect us. And just a statistic that tends to be growing too is the number of caregivers die taking care of their loved one is increasing, sadly. So just making sure that we get support and resources to those caregivers who oftentimes become the statistic, instead of their loved one who's suffering.
Mhm.
So I think it's very timely to get this out. So I think I don't know of I have not heard of a caregiving conference or whatever we were going to call it, but if there needs to be more, or whatever. I'm excited about putting it together. That's all.
Thank you, Paula. Yeah, really, really good things to think about. I think about Park County, and the spouse is the caregiver. I mean, so often, and the neighbors are assistance caregivers because they help with rides to the doctors, or they come in and give the husband or the spouse a break when the other one needs to, just go, have some respite, like, you're familiar with doing when you ran your business. And a lot of times people don't think of that. And so it really would be so beneficial to the community. So yay, good thinking. And we'll look forward to see where you guys take this. The fourth goal was promoting social engagement and inclusion. And Mary and Kathy sat in on this. So, Kathy, do you want to give us a rundown?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to find my notes. But we basically broke it down into what step we were gonna do each year. So, let me find my notes.
It's also on the meetings screen. Jared's got goal 4 up for you.
Okay, let's see.
And you can see year 1 where it's saying identify resources and assets, year 2, year 3, year 4.
Yeah. So when we were identifying resource, we just kind of brainstormed, and then we wanted to see what accessibility problems different different resources and different places where people might go for help, or just go to in general, what kind of accessibility issues there were. And that would include like if they couldn't get to the meeting because they didn't have broadband, so it was a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams meeting. And it would include physical barriers too. Or maybe there's sometimes a barrier just because someone doesn't know how to do something. So that would be the skill building. And then we would bring people together, and then that way it could kind of help each other or teach each other skills that would assist them. So that would improve the skills for the person that was having accessibility issues, or maybe find ways to make things physically more accessible with simple fixes. So it was kind of a broad brainstorming thing, but these are the things that I don't know if you guys can all see this, but these are the way we kind of broke it down. So it would take some time to get it done, but it would be very thoughtfully done.
Thanks, Kathy. This is Melissa. And I want to highlight again the observations and comments that the commission had brought up leading up to the discussion around social engagement and inclusion, with the statement that the commission really wanted, kind of midway on the screen here, to create a sense of belonging and value by purposeful skill building that leverages a community's unique resources and assets. And so again, this was one of the more challenging goals that the commission was taking on. And as commissioners met and dug deep and discussed, it was really this idea around being able to work on skill building that was going to be purposeful. And then also really, which you hinted on, Kathy, and brought up, that you're building on the community's resources and assets. And so, it sounds like when you guys got together, you talked about the need to do that community evaluation and figure out, in the different counties and the different areas, kind of what are the resources and assets for the places, like you mentioned at the beginning of the notes, Golden Bridge Network in Teller County, Innovations in Aging, the Senior Resource Council. So, just kind of really, this group would be spending that time kind of really identifying the strengths and the resources and assets, and then trying to create skill building opportunities for older adults and kind of seeing where that all leads over time, while definitely acknowledging the accessibility issues that older adults, face every day. So just wanted to remind everybody about that really important statement about purposeful skill building, because my gosh, I feel like we even voted on that at one point. It was really important. So I just wanted to mention that again.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. And that is a really good point, because when you think about just the communication to a senior about an event that's going to happen that would give them that social contact. What is the best way for that communication to happen? And if it's helping with skills on using email, or any kind that can improve that connectability for communication to allow them to have that social interaction. You almost have to start at the very beginning. In Park County, our fair happens once a year, and we're working on having a senior day, to where we have people pick up seniors and bring them to fair. They work with, we're hoping that 4-H this year is pretty important to Park County. They can do like a sewing and quilting, where we have seniors teaching the 4-H kids some of these skills that could be lost into the future. So, those are some things we're trying to do, which definitely provides that youth and aging connection, but also provides such good socialization. So, and we're rural. I mean, there's other ways in every town within and area within PPACG 3 counties that are all different. So this is a big one. So any other comments?
It'll be interesting with the potential new members who are coming from Park County as well as Teller County to be able to offer their kind of insight and experience to these 4 goals. So that'll be fun.
Right. The way I see it, we're probably going to have to drill it down to a community level for certain, just like, Lake George has its own community center. Guffey has its own community center. I'm sure Cripple Creek does. And so it's probably going to have to go down to be that small of a working unit. And so it's good that we're getting really good broad representation, because we'll probably all have to wear that hat to figure out how to help facilitate that in the smallest area that is usable for transportation and connectivity and all of that. So yay, more to come. This is exciting though. Really exciting. We have some big goals ahead of us.
And my hope is to kind of come up with a format that all of this information is really on kind of one page. So for those of you who sent me very detailed notes, that is what you see today. And between now and the January meeting, I will be distilling this down to kind of a little one-page info sheet that kind of conveys the work that the commission is doing with the goals and some of these, kind of specific things. So just know kind of the next document you see will not have anywhere near this level of detail on it, but hopefully it'll be a useful tool to share out in the community and communicate the work that's happening over the next year.
Thank you. That will be really helpful. Okay. Any other comments or discussion on the strategic planning? Yes, please.
I have a question. Since I am new, this is my second meeting. With these work groups and goals, is the idea for each little subcommittee to then do the outreach portion to engage the seniors so we are accurately getting the information and getting people involved properly versus just what we here think?
We're kind of making it up as we go.
Okay. I could do that.
We're and if anyone else wants to comment, since I don't live, breathe, and work this focus, but I think once we kind of get a flavor of how we can make these 4 goals real and that we can touch them and make them happen, then we'll figure out how we're going to implement. So we're open to any and all suggestions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. All right, so discussion items. Do we have any discussion items that we would like to bring up? Anything? It's not on the.
Yeah, my discussion item is that my phone is at 10% and I'm gonna probably lose the last part of this meeting. I have no charger. I wanted to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, and sorry I'm not there in person. I hope to be there in person next month. I am not driving. I'm non-weight bearing. I had foot surgery 4 weeks ago, and I have 4 more weeks of non-weight bearing and no driving. So I will get a ride there next month, I promise, and I'm excited to lead this group onward and upward. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. And I hope you have a good caregiver taking care of you since you are not supposed to be putting weight on your foot.
I have multiple caregivers.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you
Merry
so much.
Christmas to you and heal well, please.
I will. I will. Thank you so much.
All right, you bet. Anything else anyone would like to discuss? Okay, member entity announcements. Do we have any announcements? The next commission meeting is January 17th. So there's one announcement. Executive committee meeting. We meet the first Wednesday of the month at 10:30 by Zoom. So Melissa will make sure that the new executive committee gets the reminder and that we all meet up and just plan. We meet the first week to plan for the meeting on the third week. So it's working really well. Policy committee meetings are to be determined. PPACG meeting, board director meeting. Second Wednesday. Yeah, that's what I thought. The second Wednesday, and you can zoom in. You learn a whole bunch attending those board meetings. So, and it convenes at 9:00, and the link is available on the agenda. Anything else to say about that, Jared?
Nope, you covered it.
Kind of winging it here. And the PP Commission on Aging presentation to the PPACG, Pikes Peak Area Council of Government Board, will be in February instead of January. So we will, I'm sure, plan at our meeting in January what our topics are, who's going to take up the mantle to speak to the board, and make sure that we give them some good, meaningful information about where we're headed. So that's one item for our next meeting. Anything else that we need to have an ask to be put on the agenda for next meeting? Jody, please.
I just want to thank all of you as members of the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging. I just want to thank all of you for your time, your work on these work groups. As these work groups move forward, there are some very well needed subjects here, and you guys have covered them well, and just so pleased with how the Commission on Aging has grown over the last couple of years, not just in size and membership, but in your goals and your strategies. So just want to say thank you for that, and to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. And just thank you for your time that you're invested in this. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, Jody. Your kind words are very meaningful to us. I think about when we first started after the handoff from the city, and we weren't quite sure where we were going or what we were doing, but we do know now. And I do tip my hat to Dayton, because his thoughtful, meaningful work really did put us in this good direction and gave us focus. And I think where he has pointed us with his ongoing participating as an ex-chair is really going to be helpful. And I think that all of your great brain matter that's brought with everybody who has such a diverse background in helping seniors is really appreciated. And I've learned a lot. So thank you very much. Any last comments? Merry Christmas to everyone. Wishing you happy, healthy, prosperous 2024. And I will call this meeting adjourned.